My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Underrated Movie Podcast. This is a podcast where we discuss films that are underrated, underappreciated, and ones that have flown under the radar and passed most people by. I am Derek McDuff, the host of the show, and joining me today is a good friend of mine. He's also the co-host of The Welcome Party. He is the main consultant of Intermyth, and that would be JPG. How's it going, man?
Derek, thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it, especially for the Leica retrospective, man.
I'm excited, yeah, and as you said, this is the Leica retrospective. We're talking about all of the films of Leica, the studio that makes some of the best stop-motion movies ever made, that unfortunately more than a few of them are underrated, which is why we're talking about them here. And the one today is going to be Kubo and the Two Strings, directed by somebody I've talked about quite a bit on this podcast, Travis Knight, co-written by Mark Hames and somebody else I've talked about on this podcast, Chris Butler. It stars, of course, Charlize Theron, Art Parkinson, Ralph Fiennes, Rooney Mara, and Matthew McConaughey. But before I get too much into the film itself, Jason, what did you want to let the people know about yourself and Intermyth and the Welcome Party? Because you do a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay, where do I start? How do I usually start this on stage? Okay, so I'm going to go from the very beginning. So I'm JPG. I'm a pop culture educator and consultant. I own the consultancy firm Intermyth, where I help marginalized communities with pop culture content creation. So it's either like launching into the space that you want to create in, or improving on the content that you're putting out into the spaces that you're already involved in as well, too. I'm one of the co-hosts for The Welcome Party, which is your exclusive invitation to pop culture. Do a lot of like fun game show live events. We talk about pop culture. Our Patreon is up right now, and we're working through our summer season right now, which is Patreon only. And gosh, what else? I am a voice in multiple tabletop RPG shows online, and see, because this is where
Gen Con.
Yeah, I know
Comic-Con.
my brain right now. Yeah, I'm currently on our convention speaking tour right now, so just getting back from San Diego Comic-Con and Gen Con as well. We got the Pokemon World Championships coming up, which by the time this is posted, it'll probably have passed. But then I also have LA Comic-Con coming up, and I also have Phil M Creator Con in San Diego coming up that I'll be speaking at as well. And that's going to be in like later September.
Yeah, so right around, when this is coming out. So thank you. I appreciate you taking the time with that busy schedule to come on and talk about this with me.
Also, thank you for cutting it, because after that, it just starts to sound like a dating profile, right? Like, and then like you don't know what to say after. You're like, I'm a Sagittarius. I love long walks on the beach, right? Mm-hmm. And like, and that's what
my
it
favorite
starts
color is
feeling
purple.
Like.
Yeah,
there it is.
I
love it. Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know what that reference was actually.
I just like purple. That's all it was.
Oh, okay. You wanted to put it out there. Okay.
Like, I don't know. I was like, maybe he also likes purple. We could line up in this. Who knows? But yeah, one thing we do both love is, of course, Kubo and the Two Strings. And before I had even conceived of doing all of the films of Leica, I wanted to talk about Kubo. And I had talked with you about doing this at least even a year ago. You were all on board to talk about this movie. So JPG, what drew you to Kubo, and why do you want to talk about it here on Underrated?
Okay, so I personally think that when it comes to Leica Studios, I just think there is this. I don't want to like call it a curse, but I think that they get hit with a string of bad luck consistently when it comes to their products when they're released and how they are portrayed in marketing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so this came out just around the same time of Suicide Squad,
hmm
where people were very ready to just see something a little bit more, I guess, like edgy and gritty. And yeah, this kind of leads into, oh gosh, didn't Dawn of Justice come out like before or after this as well too?
Yeah, I think right around the same time, and then also Sausage. Speaking of edgy stuff, this comes out the same week, I think, as Sausage Part, or
Yeah,
right around the
so
same time as Sausage Part, another animated movie.
you get this like weekend of like very irreverent films or like or very like adult violent films,
Mhm.
right? And then this isn't like the old days, right? If you go to the movies on the weekend, and I can say this because Derek, I know that you're one of these people who do this, right? But like somebody like me, I'm gonna go see one movie for the weekend. You would
Okay,
see like eight.
I
But
do. I do get the most of that AMC pass. I'm hitting all 4 movies if I can.
but if I'm choosing something, right? If I'm choosing
Mhm.
one and I'm in that mode of like something a little bit grittier, right? Like I mean, I think it came in on its opening weekend. It came in fifth, right? Like it
Looks
was
like
at fourth or fifth.
fourth place
Oh,
behind
fourth place.
War
Okay.
Dog, Sausage Party, and Suicide Squad, which was already out for a couple weeks.
Oh,
So
for some
yeah,
reason I thought Ben-Hur beat it also. Which is wild, right? We got a
right.
Ben-Hur remake.
Yeah. Like people don't even realize the quote unquote original is also a remake. But yeah, that came out and nobody cared about it.
Yeah, but then like Kubo also came out the same weekend.
Mhm.
Was this? Yeah, this was a remake, right? Pete's Dragon from Disney.
Yes, a movie that I have covered on this podcast.
So I personally think that there was a very strong string of time where studios like Leica were consistently missing out on dollars because the studio, or excuse me, because the audience wanted something a little bit grittier. And we kept seeing that, right? Like how much did we talk about Dawn of Justice with at least some excitement at the time that it came
Right.
out, right? I would even say like I actually enjoyed the first Suicide Squad film, right?
Mhm.
But I definitely didn't see Kubo because that weekend I'm going to be seeing something that was going to be a little gritty. It's also 2016, right? You know.
Right. We hadn't really the things were just starting to go bad, but we hadn't, we were like now we were like, okay, the movies need to be kind of an escape from the real world. But
Oh yeah.
we hadn't lost everything yet at that point.
God. Uh, and now it's not like we're in the same position or anything like that. It's not like history repeats itself.
Right.
Why don't we get a
Just
Kubo on the Two Strings too, or whatever? Right.
things.
Anyway, that's why I was very very excited to get to be on this, just to talk about like just Leica's just terrible string of luck when it came to a lot of these releases.
Yeah, and something I've touched on before, this has come up again and again with every episode, is that these movies don't typically do great. This one does better than the one that would follow. And I get really into like how that was a tremendous financial failure, despite it being, I think, a very, very good film. This one does okay, not great, but yeah, like they just have a string of not doing great at the box office, while despite making films that are generally pretty acclaimed. But yeah, this is another one that underperforms significantly, and that's really just too bad. Even Coraline, which by now is by far their most successful film, has had a bunch of re-releases. It did solid, but it wasn't a huge hit until it had really built up a reputation for a while.
I did want to start to talk about, right? Because there are things that I absolutely love about this film,
Mhm.
and there are things that I wish could have gone better.
Okay.
And I always like to start with the things that could have gone better first.
Okay. Is one of them the fact that this podcast has more people of Asian descent than the movie seems to? on it right now, currently?
Derek. Derek, I could not believe it's one of those things where God, I don't even know how to equate this, right?
Mhm.
Where it's like I felt like I found a decent Chinese restaurant, and then it was just like a bunch of people from Wisconsin in the back. Like, right?
Yeah.
And it's so tough for me, right? Because I want to make sure, and I talk about this all the time on other shows, but like, there is a credence to cultural sensitivity and cultural knowledge when it comes to making a film like this. This is heavily Asian inspired, and I have two things to say about the Asian inspiration, right? Is number one, if this is heavily Asian inspired, and then you just like hire a bunch of like Oscar winners and a bunch of like Oscar nominated people in order to get this going for you, it does give me the sense that there wasn't really a belief in the narrative in the first place. And that kind of worries me, right? There's an
Mhm.
implication of that. But the second part of that is this like string of Asian amalgamation films where we take a little bit from here and from this culture, we take a little bit here from that culture, things like that. I've seen it done well, and I've seen it do not so well. But for the absolute most part, when it is that amalgamation and that concentration of different cultures all getting mixed into one and making it, frankly, Orientalist a little bit.
Yeah.
That's where it loses me, right? Like I love, for example, Raya and the Last Dragon.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I love it, and I understand that it's this amalgamation of Southeast Asian cultures that I particularly enjoy because they added a lot of Filipino traits to it, right? But they also added a lot of like Laotian and Vietnamese traits to it, and me personally, as an Asian person, I absolutely loved it. But then I also see why it falls flat because there is there's a kernel of truth in the spectacular that they're putting together.
Right. I totally get what you're saying, and yeah, I agree with you. And this one, I will say it is supposed to be Japanese. Like it is set definitively in feudal Japan. It feels like they're drawing mostly from Japanese culture, but there is probably some amalgamation going on there. And yeah, it is one of those things where I'm like, I feel like for the most part they're doing the actual representation of Asian culture well, at least to my eyes, and like I am a white guy, so take that with a grain of salt. But the really disappointing thing is that this is you've just got white people, right? And great actors. I'm not saying that Matthew McConaughey and everyone else is not really spectacular in this, but also you could have cast a Japanese guy who would have also been really great.
Look, we just in The Villagers, George Takei was a voice, and Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa was a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, like we had there was another person. Sorry, I'm gonna look up her name one more time. Is Mine Noji, right? A prolific voice actress. Just a villager, right? And it was like, and villagers in this film maybe have 2 to 3 lines tops, right? George Takei had a few lines, but
One
he
which
was mostly
"Oh my."
used. Yeah, and he was mostly used as the exposition in
Mhm.
order to talk about how you're able to see your ancestors and all that stuff, and he's explaining it to his daughter at the time. And this is culturally a very Asian movie.
Yeah.
And then we get the kid from Game of Thrones in order to
Yeah.
to voice Kubo, right? We get
Mhm.
Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron is 2 different characters in this,
Yes.
which by the way, I'm an idiot because I remember distinctly being so shocked that she played 2 characters in this film. And then in my watch through just recently, I'm like, "Oh, am I an idiot? Like she never changes her voice. We just don't hear Kubo's mother speak a lot. So you're not like
Yeah,
really
you're
used
not-
to her
yeah.
voice at the very beginning of it.
And she's
right?
a little more like, well, she's not changed her voice. That when she is the mother, she's a lot more like, "What's happening, Kubo? What's going on?"
Yeah, right. There's an etherealness to it,
Mhm.
like an ethereal quality to it. as opposed to Matthew McConaughey is just Matthew McConaughey, guys, right? Like he was just like the energy that he brings to the Beetle is very interesting, and it's not something that we're used to in the reconnaissance that happens
Right.
shortly after this, right?
Yeah, this kind of
Well,
leads
wait. Oh,
into
yeah,
it.
because Dallas Buyers Club is after this, correct?
Well, I guess Interstellar is a couple years before this too.
Oh, yeah. So we're like deep in the
Yeah,
reconnaissance
yeah.
then. Okay. Yeah, it was very, very confusing.
Yeah.
Just culturally.
Yeah, that's and like you say, they do have some great actual Japanese, character actors in this, but they're just kind of the other voices in the village. They're not people who are moving the plot along. They're not people who have really important roles. All the quote unquote main, even secondary characters for the most part are white people, which is a bummer, and it feels like a movie that this is only 9 years old, that they would not make that decision today.
I will say that 10 years after this, I think cultural zeitgeist wise, I think this is going to be forgotten about and then shock another group of inspired individuals who want to talk about film.
Mhm.
Right? I think we're going to see this renaissance of like, 10 years from now, we should pick up Kubo again and see like, oh wow, that aged poorly. Right.
Mhm.
And we're gonna see this more and more. Okay, and I say this specifically because I was just having this conversation with friends. I had just seen what was it? Oh, this past week. I have just seen Some Like It Hot for the very first time.
Okay.
And for me, I'm like, I had a lot of fun, but I can see why this is problematic.
Yeah.
Right. And so and I tried to, you always give yourself the excuse of like, it was a different time and they could get away with certain things and it was a different sensibility and all that. And I mean, we're going through that now with films 20 years ago, with a lot of the stuff that we enjoyed as teenagers, right? So as I think as this gets further and further, I think this is going to be something that shocks future film audiences in the sense of like, oh wow, who thought that was a good idea?
Right. And because obviously this happens, I think you would not get live action actors playing, like white people playing Japanese characters at this point in time. But but I think because they were like, it's animation, anybody can play anybody, you're getting a lot of, in dubs like of Ghibli movies, you're getting a lot of people of all like Keith David doing like a Japanese person. You're getting Claire Danes like in Princess Mononoke. And so I think that that's the reason. I'm not defending it at all, of course, but I'm saying that's why the reason I think it gets through. It comes before the whole Apu controversy where that all changes. So I think this really kind of was right at that tipping point where stuff starts to change. And even, like I said, we wouldn't do it now. I think even a year or two after, you would have gotten a very different cast. But with all that said, I do still think this is a really fantastic film and a really good attempt from a studio in Portland to tell a story of, a culture that is not their own and to kind of bring a culture to American audiences. Because I do think that's maybe part of the reason it failed, is because this is not something that you would normally expect to get, especially with the price tag that it ran.
It was what? Is it 60 million or something like that?
Let's see. I think it is around that. Let's see. I've got it pulled up here. Yeah, 60 million is the budget.
Ooh.
And it only makes 77 and a half. So, probably not breaking even with this one.
And you would think, right?
Done.
You would think, right? Like, you should be proud because you made more money than the budget, right? But then you have to factor in marketing costs, because marketing costs is usually the same exact budget, if not way more than that. But then even then, I still don't really remember a huge marketing push for Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yeah, because I don't think because they are an independent studio, they work, their stuff is distributed typically by Focus Features. They're not a huge studio that is putting a lot of P&A stuff out. So this at the time, while it was the most expensive computer animated, stop motion animated film ever, that obviously gets broken by themselves a couple years later with Missing Link, which I will talk about on that episode. But yeah, this movie, it's another one of those examples of like really ambitious filmmaking that doesn't necessarily pay off at the box office. But yeah, this feels the scope of this thing just feels so big and bold, and they have these gigantic skeletons that they build like that are just from the ground up. These ridiculous things that they're making for the film. What did you think about the movie and like the scope and just this being this fantasy epic?
Well, even though we've had those issues and we've talked about the voice actors and everything, I still very much enjoy this film
Mm-hmm.
in the spirit that it was made in, right? And so there is a little bit of this quiet intensity when it comes to period samurai film. And I think for the absolute most part, they capture that intensity. I read somewhere that like even like the lines in these films, I would compare these lines to another film with the same runtime, and I would still say that there are markedly less lines. And I think that they do more. I think this film does more with the quiet and the space in between lines than most other films of that year that it came out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is a movie that really knows when to say something and when not to, and when to rely on the visual language of film, right? Because this movie is so steeped in these incredible images that we're seeing throughout it, and just the power of storytelling, whether that be through dialogue or through visuals. That is at the crux of this movie. Is Kubo is a storyteller, and he is telling these stories through his music and through his origami, and he eventually has to go and tell his own story and reclaim the narrative of what's been happening with his family and go up against his grandfather. I thought all that stuff was really, really cool. What did you think about the whole storytelling aspect of the film?
Well, okay. First and foremost, I always love like a little bit of anachronism in like period type films. Okay, I will go on record to say this as well too. Like one of my favorite films is oh my gosh, why am I forgetting? Oh, A Knight's Tale.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
One
with
of the early ones I
like
covered. Yeah.
wait, is A Knight's Tale underrated?
I think so. I think it's like it's one of those movies that it's kind of like people are like, oh yeah, remember A Knight's Tale with Queen? It was pretty good.
I just oh, I don't know. I kind of count it up there as like this is like early 2000s bisexual awakenings for a lot of people.
Yes.
Right? Like, of course, the original is The Mummy, right? But I feel like A
Mhm.
Knight's Tale is up there, right? But I do love a little bit of the anachronism, right?
Yeah.
And even the director talked a little bit about like how this came out of how some of the ideas came out of like his love for the Beatles. And
Mm.
his, but not just his love for the Beatles, but it was him and his family's love for the Beatles, like listening to them while he grew up, right? And so, when the end credits hit, and My Guitar Gently Weeps starts playing. Oh man, I wish that particular rendition would have blown up harder.
Because that we talked about the marketing a little bit. That was the one thing I really remember from the marketing is that version of My Guitar. And George Harrison's my favorite Beatle, so like that was I was one of the few people who actually saw this movie in theaters, and I was just like that was what really drew me in. And that, but besides, I talked about I always try to see Leica films because I love the studio so much, and I will say that this is probably in my top two things that Leica has ever made because for me this is kind of a visual, problems with the casting aside, I think that this is kind of a masterpiece of a film.
For me, it's getting to weave narrative into narrative, so it starts like seeping into meta narrative, right?
Hmm.
Right, because like while we are experiencing a story, Kubo is affecting his own story in ways that an audience only dreams of, right?
Hmm.
Where he understands. I mean, and it's very obvious that Kubo not only understands, not only like has fun with the magic that he has with the origami and all that, but he also has like this strong intrinsic understanding of like story beats and how stories go, right?
Yes.
And so and it's always so funny too because the childlike quality that Art Parkinson plays in this as well too, where at times Kubo is just so much smarter than everybody on screen, and then at times all of the reveals are obvious to everyone except him.
Yeah.
Because it is his life, right? And I don't know, like when it gets into the meta narrative like that, it makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point because yeah, this is clearly following that kind of traditional hero's journey very much to a T. You know, the reveal of it's almost like they do the same reveal twice, where it's like, oh, she was actually this character was actually your mother the whole time. Well, this other character was actually your father the whole time. Like they do that twice.
And so it would have like, right, like we talk about the anatomy of a joke, right? Like you need three in order to make a pattern.
Yeah.
And so like I was waiting for the third thing, like, like Kamayo is your grandma, right?
Yeah.
But she's already kind of your grandma in spirit, and I get that. Also, she does make a move in order to become your new grandma at the end of the film.
That's true. That's very true.
And
Step grandma.
It is that the ending of it always, while I think it is visually striking and narratively beautiful, like it also makes me a little bit uncomfortable at times too, because we are completely changing the Moon King's demeanor and attitude without really doing the work, if that makes sense.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because we just completely wipe his memories, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know who I am. You're the nicest person in the whole world, and you've never done anything bad."
Yeah,
and he's
just
like, "Okay,
gaslighting
cool."
somebody to be a good person, you know?
Yeah,
which
is that morally correct? And this is something that I did want to ask you about on the show as well, because I struggle with that a little bit, right? The Moon King is obviously terrible, right? He's a bad person for intentionally becoming blind and intentionally wanting to blind Kubo of his own humanity as well, right? And so the blindness is supposed to represent like not seeing people as people, right? There are a lot of nods to racism about this. There are a lot of nods to classism about this as well, especially with how the sisters talked. Because if there are white people in this film, it's the sisters.
Right. Rooney Mara is spooky as fuck, I will say, in this movie. Holy shit!
It's so with the Moon King, right? Like we have this terrible person who does not see people as people. And then he gets completely brainwashed. Like, are we okay with that?
See, I see what you're saying, because I was there for a second, but I came around to it because I think that it fits in with everything else that the end of the film is doing. Because, like I said, 90%, 75%, a good chunk of the movie is going through these traditional hero's journey beats. To the point where it's like, okay, you got to get this thing from this place, you got to get this thing from this place, and then you will be strong enough. It's almost like a video game plot. And then you will be strong enough to beat the bad guy. He turns into this, demonic worm that's glowing and everything. And then Kubo, realizes, those things that I've been spending the whole movie doing, like this traditional hero's journey of becoming stronger and, defeating him that way is not the real way to defeat him. The real way to defeat him is the empathy and the understanding of other people. It is these connections that I have. This, and it ties into once again what you were saying about trying to blind Kubo. And Kubo realizes that while he may have more physical strength because of that blindness, he doesn't have the emotional strength to defeat him, and he can rely on both the people that he knows and his ancestors who have gone away and have passed on, including now both of his parents who were killed. He draws on their strength and is able to overcome his grandfather through that. And it feels like his quote-unquote punishment is befitting of that defeat. If he was just defeated and died or whatever, that would have been more aligned with, okay, I was able to defeat you because I had the sword and everything.
The traditional hero's journey, yeah.
Exactly.
You're definitely right in the sense where a lot of this, for me, rings true, because I think that a lot of this film has to do with the undoing of generational trauma, right? Mm-hmm. And we see this with Hanzo, we see this with Monkey, and we see this with Kubo, right? With oh gosh, with Monkey, who is really Kubo's mother. Kubo's mother was raised in that household where people were not people. And the second that Hanzo shows that sort of empathy, it is eye-opening for her, right? As opposed to Hanzo is that traditional masculine hero. And the only way that he actually does get out of there alive is because he fell in love and was vulnerable with Kubo's mother, right? And so we start the story, we don't start the movie, excuse me, we don't start the story in universe, but we start the story chronologically with two people being vulnerable in moments where they're not usually seen as vulnerable in the hero's journey. And then just like you were saying, right? Like Kubo had all of the cheat codes in order to kill this thing, right? And so to be able to choose the path of empathy is great, and I absolutely love the message for that. It just for me, right? Like then my brain goes in overdrive, and I'm like, oh God, are we taking away the Moon King's agency, right? Like, okay, and you're gonna hate me for this, Derek. I'm so sorry about what I'm about to say too. I have a huge problem with at the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang taking away the Fire Lord firebending. Yeah, Fire Lord Ozai's firebending. I have a huge issue with that.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtual Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your virtual pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, why?
Oh God! Wait, did I phase you on this one?
No, I mean, like, because I'm actually legitimately curious because I think, I will say, and this is not a popular opinion. I am much more. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think Korra's better, and I know I'm going to get some major flack for that.
That is an underrated movie podcast hot take, dude. Like, I love the bravery, by the way.
Because I think the way they handle the villains, especially on Korra, is so much more interesting than the way they handle Ozai. So I am ready for you to say what you're gonna say.
With Fire Lord Ozai, right? I think we have made bending and non-bending a specific part of culture. I would even say non-bending is an even stronger part of what's culture in Korra, and I'll definitely give you that. But when it comes to Ozai, right, like, and when it comes to firebenders, just any benders in general, right, this is a core facet of you being you, and to take away that piece kind of reminds me of like the British Museum, like just taking whatever they want, and just putting it into their museums, right? And like, because Aang never wanted to be like judge, jury, and executioner, but he is killing a part of the sense of self that Ozai has, and to connect with that as well. Oh gosh, is it Amun in the first season of Korra? Oh my gosh, he was like the really scary bad guy, right? Okay. Yeah. With the mask. Oh, one of the best villains. Good of an opening season. Right?
So good.
Yeah, and so I mean, Aang takes away his dad's waterbending or something, right?
Yeah. There's like a whole. Yeah, exactly. Aang takes away his dad's waterbending, and then he starts the equal. I think that whole thing is really interesting because he's all about taking away people's bending, and that's why I love the end of that season where Korra is restoring people's bending. It's the opposite of what Aang did.
Yeah, sorry, that was like the hardest tangent to talk about.
Talk
about like Kubo's empathy and like I was talking about this is why I feel bad about the Moon King, and this is where it got to.
Because I'm trying to like not just go off about Korra for like 30 minutes because I will defend Korra like tooth and nail.
Is that our next show? Is
I think that
are,
yes,
we,
yes.
are we just doing a like a Korra watch through?
Honestly, I would be down. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I get the connection there because yeah, like you are taking a piece away, and that my honestly my thought was like, well, why does he get to live where his daughters, the twins, the Runimaro twins, are just as evil, and they don't get that second because that feels like he's being given a second chance. And I was like, well, why don't they get a second chance? You know, that was my one thought. Other
That
than
also-
structurally, I don't understand.
That also bothered me as well.
Mhm.
Mostly because, you know, the family sacrifice is all throughout this entire film, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you have the beautiful opening where Kubo's mother gets him through that stormy sea, but then you have the transition where he wakes up, he cooks rice for her, and he feeds her, and you also get the really cool transition where the second the sun sets, she comes alive, which I love. I love just how they how they animated it, and so, but it's this very intimate moment that you get within a few minutes of the film of family sacrifice, right? Which is like, you know, definitely an Asian theme, right? Like, I mean, if you've never seen the Joy Luck Club, I highly recommend it. But is that underrated? Now I got to think about it.
I need. Okay, I do actually need to watch that movie.
Oh
That's
my
that's
God,
on
you've
me.
never
I
seen
know
the
that's
Joy
on
Luck
me.
Club?
I know.
Oh God, Ming Na Wen is incredible in it.
She always is. she should have been in this movie. She could have been the mom. That would have been incredible. Sorry, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Okay. So that being said, right, there is this haughty derision that comes from the sisters, and you feel it from the very first time Kubo stays out in order to try to talk to his dad because he thinks he's a spirit still, right?
Yeah.
And so you get this haughty derision, you get this holier than thou, better than thou sort of feeling for them, right? And it is a little bit shocking when we just take care of them, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of this, the person who forced them to be this way, because let's face it, you know, they grew up in an atmosphere where where whatever their father said goes. You know, Kubo's mother makes the point in order to talk about that, right? And then they were never able to fully conceptualize and grasp that the culture that they were living in is wrong. So then, like, they get offed. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it sits weird with me, especially when, you know, when we're talking about a children's film, and we're talking about a film that is directed towards a younger age that would benefit from the idea of empathy. Right?
Yeah.
It was a little shocking. It was a little bit shocking.
Yeah, and I think, you know, ultimately it comes down to, like, I will say I have a very good relationship with my family and stuff like that, you know, but I am close with some people who do not have the same benefits, you know, and I think that that's something this movie handles. What I do like about the ending, about like the villagers using empathy on him at the end, it does feel like it's kind of like, hey, you know, you've healed and good for you. You might not remember, but I still will. And it's not like it. I don't get the impression, at least, that he's like, cool, well, all is forgiven now. He's like, all right, this is almost like your punishment is this, and you've healed and good for you. But that doesn't mean that, like, now I'm just gonna be happy-go-lucky with my grandpa.
Yeah, and I understand the idea of, like, doing good for the rest of your life as punishment, but once again, does that send the wrong message of, oh, doing good is a punishment in and of itself, right? Where we see in this film that empathy is earned, but I don't know if I want to tell kids that good deeds are inherently tough and something that you need to do just to atone. It should just be us doing these things every day, right? So, and I'm getting in the weeds here, right? Like, at the end of the day, it still has a good message. But I think also we are watching this film with almost 10 years of hindsight and new products that have come out, right? And I mean, my number one show right now that is just showing kids just the right way to be a person is Bluey, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Bluey has done such an incredible job to build empathy in like 8 minutes or less. It's impressive, right? I
Yeah.
would say the show right behind that for me is Steven Universe.
Yeah, fair.
I think there is a lot of great messaging in Steven Universe, and so with that, I think I might be judging this film a little too harshly because we've had 10 years to improve upon that type of storytelling.
And I will say too, that I think the difference between those shows and this movie is, while you could show a kid this movie, and like I think this is the case with all Leica films, is they are kid appropriate, but they're not explicitly made for children. I think that this is a film that anyone could watch, but it's not a kids movie.
Yeah,
And I think that is why it is able to be a little more complex. We are able to have these discussions about, like, well, what happened with the grandfather at the end? You know, like this very messed up, messy family, and this whole journey that Kubo himself goes on of like accepting what has been done to him and what has happened with his parents. Because as interesting as it is to talk about, like, you know, where his grandfather ultimately lands up, the film really is about Kubo. And while he is a kid, I think he is emotionally so mature and interesting. Like, what do you think about his arc?
thank you for bringing this up. The number one thing that I love about surrounding Kubo with the narrative is that we always have time for fun.
Mm.
The scene where he's playing the guitar, the shamisen, and he's like teasing the bird.
Yes.
And then like one of the birds like hits Monkey in the butt, right? Like, even in these tough moments, we have time for levity. I think the film does such a good job with building levity into moments where we as an audience may need said levity, right? Another moment is you start to see Monkey and Monkey and Beetle start to connect a little bit.
Yeah.
And you have this moment where Beetle on the boat says, "Don't miss me too much." And Kubo acts as if his two parents are being lovey-dovey in front of him. And we get
Yes.
that feeling, right? We get that feeling, and he gets to have that kid feeling of, oh, gross, my parents love each other, right? And
Yeah.
even at the time, we don't know that Monkey is his mother and Beetle is his father.
Right.
But we get the sense that now that these are the new parental figures, he gets the chance to have that levity, and he gets the chance to have that important feeling of like, oh, gross, my parents are in love.
Right, right. And I love too that we realize, you know, before he does, it's revealed in the movie that Monkey is his mother, and that he thinks he's already lost his mother. He has a little more time with her before she's taken away. And then same thing with his dad. His dad, who's been gone his whole life, who's trying to reconnect with after he's passed, realizes he's still there. And they do have that brief little thing. And for him to have this, his family has always been this very negative thing in his life, other than his mom. But she tells him, the family is bad. You know, the sisters are bad. They're not real family. He gets to experience that even so briefly. And I love that.
I love that Kubo also gets the context to experience his parents as not his parents, right?
Right.
I think there's this incredible theme of your parents are people too.
Yeah.
And they deserve the love and empathy that they are getting, because at one point they were just as lost and just as confused as you are, right? And at times Kubo has to lay down the law a little bit. With Monkey, she is too strict, and he finds the time in order to show her some fun. With Beetle, he's so aloof that like Kubo has to lock in a lot of the times in order to make sure that Beetle knows when to lock in as well. In experiencing your parents, especially not as your parents, but as the people that they are, who make mistakes and who don't always have the right answer. It's so important for childhood growth. and he gets that whole arc in this film. Like they did this in what, an hour and 41 minutes?
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
amazing that they were able to have this whole arc where Kubo goes from little kid to teenager to adult in this
Right.
whole thing, while all just staying the same exact age.
Yeah, and the economy of all these Leica films in terms of like storytelling is so good because they have to tell these stories so quickly because it takes forever to animate these things. And so that's the one thing I really appreciate. And I do think once again it ties into what I was talking about earlier about the visual storytelling being so strong in this.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, we talked about a lot of the themes, a lot of the motifs and the journeys these characters go on. How do you think that Leica's especially very unique storytelling style paid off in this film?
I have a two-part answer for this.
Okay.
Number one, me personally, as somebody who loves film, I feel culturally obligated as a film lover in order to see every Leica film.
Mm-hmm.
I say this in the sense where making movies is hard. But I think that this might be the hardest way to make movies.
Yes.
And so I always want to make sure that I'm giving it that time and love and care because somebody sat there and built a 19-foot skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
And then after building that 19-foot skeleton, spent seconds upon minutes upon hours upon days in order to move these things very slightly to imitate fluid movement on camera, right? That's insane. And a labor of love that deserves my money every time. So that's number one,
All right.
right?
Yeah.
Number two, I would say that Leica always has this special type of heart when it comes to telling stories with and correct me if I'm wrong here, like a little special type of macabre. That
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that is. It just okay. The trope of of people who are like really like cutesy Halloween,
Yes.
right? Like maybe they want like all the ghosts and the goblins and all this stuff, but like they got to be like real cute and like anime eyes and like all this other, right? And but then they're like the hardcore horror film people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is such a great entryway into like, oh, this is kind of scary. Are you into this? You might be into this. Let's keep watching other films like this. And it's this great entryway into not only like narrative strength, but like your intro into the macabre a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's something that, except for maybe Missing Link, like all of the Leica films do, where like there's a reason that like Coraline is still a popular Halloween costume, and like Paranorman is very much like starter zombie horror, and and this follows in that same vein of like, yeah, it's like you could like we said we could show a kid this. But at the same time, it is a little more somber. It is a little bit more intense in some ways, and a little bit bittersweet, which I always love bittersweet movies. Like it's one of my favorite things. And to circle back onto your first point about the extreme time and dedication that went into this movie and how that deserves to be rewarded. That's something that watching all these movies, I really felt an appreciation for, but especially this one. Because this really feels like a real mission statement of like Leica being like, this is what we do. We make these grand stories, and this is completely an epic fantasy. And I just, rewatched the first movie they ever did. In next week's episode, I'll say I didn't watch it, but I watched it in between because we're recording these episodes out of order. But Corpse Bride, which like in retrospect, like that is very, very simple. This feels like the biggest, most insane thing that like has ever been done with like this stuff. And now it's becoming, and I'm all for the democratization of like storytelling, but now we are starting to get the exact opposite of this, which is just like AI, where it's like, yeah, we're not going to put in the work. We're just going to like just make something as cheaply and as easily and as destroying the environmentally as possible. And that is something that I'm actually concerned about, is the rise of like AI in animation with filmmaking, because IMAX just announced that they are partnering with Runaway AI to put on an AI short film festival on IMAX. Like that is an official thing that is happening, and it makes me so upset. And this is the exact opposite. This is real artistry from actual artists who are spending days and weeks and months and years putting together something that really means something to them. And I was thinking about something Guillermo del Toro said at Comic-Con when he was at his panel with George Lucas, and he was like, you cannot press a button and have the heart and story that you would do when you're actually making something. Because if you are spending all that time to make something like this, you're gonna damn well make it good. You're gonna damn well put everything that you've ever fucking thought about into a story like this. And so I think that really it comes through here, and it's important.
There was I'm paraphrasing the quote, but it was just recently I heard it. It's AI is going to exist, right? But I want AI to do my laundry so I can make art. I don't want AI to make my art so I can do laundry.
Exactly. That is you're hitting the nail on the head. I am fine if AI finds brain like cancer in your brain. That's yes, please more AI like that. Less AI where it is making art.
Now, okay, I will say I wanted to go back to the point of like being like a little bit macabre.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I think claymation in general is a little bit macabre. And I think it's because of, like we're mimicking movement. So it's a little bit of like that uncanny valley sort of thing. Like it triggers the part in our brain that like, oh, you kind of look human. So now I have to be a little bit wary about you. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same feeling I get. Did you ever watch the Thunderbirds when you were a kid?
Yes.
Yeah, with like the puppets,
Mm-hmm.
like the marionettes, right? The same feeling I get from Leica films is the same feeling that I get from the Thunderbirds. I absolutely enjoy it, but the uncanny valley portion of my brain cannot turn off.
That's fair. And well, speaking of that, you were reminding me, did you ever watch that fucking creepy as hell claymation, The Adventures of Mark Twain, when you were a kid?
Yes. That 100% has that movement problem, right? And like, okay, because I talk about this all the time. I don't know why, but it's like humans have evolved with this thing about the uncanny valley, right? Where it is you're looking at something and it's not quite human, so your brain is in alarm, which has to imply that at one point in our evolution, there was something that kind of looked like us, but was very, very dangerous. And that's just terrifying to think about, right?
Yeah.
Right? And so, it's like this, not vestigial, but like it's an almost vestigial thing in our brains now. Where we're like, that's not quite human. Why do I have to glue my eyes to it? Why am I interested in it? At a very visceral level, I have to keep my eyes on it, right? And I think that's what these claymation films, or like these like stop motion animated films, do for me, right? I keep saying claymation. Is it like clay?
It's not clay. They haven't really used clay in stop motion for a while. And part of the reason I brought up The Adventures of Mark Twain, which is because it came from like the predecessor of Leica, which was Will Vinton Studios. And so I think a lot of that DNA definitely carried over into what Leica would become after Will Vinton. And like, yeah, so he started out in clay, and then but now like that kind of technology, even stuff that looks like clay, like Chicken Run, the new one, they don't really use clay.
Yeah, I'm mad that I'm correcting myself this far into the show, and I apologize for using claymation this whole time. But yeah, that stop motion animation feel, right? I think it has this really cool built-in human nature thing that we cannot take our eyes off of it.
Right, exactly, because it's insane. Because you can tell, like you forget at certain points, but you can like really tell, like this is something that people made. That there's a labor of love, and like they don't do this in Leica. They will smooth over a lot of the creases, but when oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. He directed Leica's first film, Coraline. When he made his most recent film, 101 Wild, he intentionally left in the creases and stuff where because you will remove someone's like mouth, and he left in the creases so you could tell where these things were put together, because he thinks that Henry Selick,
Henry Selick, yeah.
But like, it just came to me.
Henry Selick.
Because he really cares about this, and so does Phil Knight and all of these people working in Leica.
We do have to talk about, right? Where is Leica now? What are we doing with Leica now?
Because they have a movie coming out theoretically early next year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did I miss this?
Wildwood, which Phil Knight, who directed this movie, will be doing, and then it's not an official Leica movie, but they are going to. Travis Knight and Chris Butler, the writer director of this movie, are going to be making the live action Masters of the Universe movie.
Oh, who's playing He-Man then on that one?
He-Man is someone I do not recognize, Nicholas Galitzine.
Oh, Galitzine, yeah.
Okay.
I think started on like Netflix films and all that.
Okay.
Oh gosh, okay. And they got Peyton Elizabeth Lee, who I really enjoy. She played Andy Mack on the series Andy Mack on Disney.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Have you ever heard? This is a wild premise, but Andy Mack is about a girl who lives with her mom and dad, and her older sister pops in and out. And then the premise of the entire show is she finds out that her older sister is her mom.
With the Walmart app, you can squeeze in those final days of summer and nail that back-to-school shopping list. So keep working on that tan and let Walmart Express Delivery handle the rest. Chromebooks, Clorox wipes, Sharpies, glue sticks, pens, pencils, and more. All delivered in as fast as an hour. So pour yourself another iced tea. Summer's not over. Last-minute back-to-school supplies delivered fast. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new. Subject to availability. Fees and restrictions apply.
Today's top story, the flavor merger of the century between the Peanut Butter Group and Chocolatey Corp. Joining me is a PBC executive.
Thanks for having me, Barry.
Now, how did you know the merger and the byproduct of it, Jif peanut butter and chocolate flavored spread, would be a success?
It was a gut feeling, a rumbling, if you will. Besides, they're two titans of taste.
Very true. Goes great with pretzels.
And pancakes.
Apples too, I bet. Try Jif PBC today.
I did know that because I do personally know the person who played the older sister. She was my old improv coach.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So Leland Bowen.
Yeah. Okay. She was doing something with some other friends. She was on a panel just recently with a few other friends as well.
Oh, nice,
too.
nice.
I hear she's lovely.
She's really cool. I mean, I haven't talked to her in years, but she was really chill and taught me everything I know about improv. So she's the best.
So then, okay, from here, so from Kubo and the Two Strings to Wildwood, right? What are some things that we're hoping to see when it comes to this new film?
Well, one thing that I am excited for is that they seem to be leaning really into the Pacific Northwest of it. And this is something I've touched on in some other episodes. Obviously, it's not relevant here, but there is a real unique feeling and spirit to Leica that seems like it could only come out of like Portland, Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. It's the reason Portlandia exists because it's such a weird, unique place. Mm-hmm. And I am really excited to see that, but mixed with the fantasy elements, the macabre, the bittersweetness of all of these movies with, once again, a young protagonist that most of these films have, but in a way that's not necessarily a kid's movie, but kids could watch it.
For me, I was gonna touch on the macabre again, right? Like if anywhere is haunted in the United States, it's it is the Appalachians, it is the Deep South,
right?
And then the Pacific Northwest has to be maybe not ghost wise, but like Bigfoot stuff wise, the supernatural in the sense where it is something tangible, right?
Yes,
like,
yes.
The Pacific Northwest has to, right? They have to have some weird things in the
that's
forest.
why they make Missing Link right after this,
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's what we're excited to see from Leica. That's what we hope to see. Like we said, they only make a movie every few years because these things take forever. They cost a lot of money. But what does Leica mean overall to you?
We touched on it a couple times already, but what Leica means to me is there's a way to make art, and there's a way to make art by going above and beyond. And I think that when it comes to things like Leica, where it is literally it's this combination of creativity, but physically putting in the hours, right? We hear so many stories of, oh, well, I'm this brilliant director or I'm this brilliant screenwriter and I wrote this in 8 hours. And now, boom, here you go. I sold it. And now it's up to somebody else in order to make this come alive on screen, right? But with Leica, it is I built this thing, and now and this is where it starts. Now the blood, sweat, and tears come in, right? Because I can't imagine how frustrating it is to have to go 24 frames a second, right? And so to really have that narrative ready to go to be on screen, and that's just the start of the work, I think is such a beautiful piece of the process, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, it is a real labor of love. Every time you see these movies, it's you can't help but appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, any last thoughts on Kubo here before we completely wrap up?
You know, I'm honored to be an Asian person associated with this film now. And
I wasn't just going to bring another white guy on here and talk about it. I'm not going to make the same mistakes that Travis Knight made.
Oh, well, and really, okay, with Kubo, I think it is an incredible, worthwhile watch. And I think that this is a great study of how we can push storytelling, but then how we can improve upon our storytelling by the choices that we make also, right? I would say that it is easier to make a near perfect film than it is to make a film that you genuinely learn something from. Right? My everybody has a near perfect film like in their head, right? Derek, what's yours, by the way?
A documentary. Well, I won't say because I actually might make it at some point, but I do actually want to make a documentary at some point. We'll see if I can do it.
So my perfect film, or my near perfect film, is The Princess Bride. I think it has everything that an audience wants. Right?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking what movie I was gonna make. Okay.
Oh no. Like what is your near? What do you think is your near perfect film? But for me,
Park.
Yeah. We just talked about this over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
As we saw Speed Racer, because we have to drop that we saw Speed Racer.
Oh my god, so incredible! Got to see those back to back on my birthday weekend. Loved it.
With Jurassic Park, with The Princess Bride, it is you know, they have everything that all audiences want. And I think that's beautiful, and I think it's so tough to pull off, right? Every movie is trying to pull that off, right? As opposed to, can I take a film, believe in its beauty, and then take something from it in order to adapt into my own art? That's a creative's dream, right? General audience wants a perfect film. A creative wants a film that they learn something from.
Yeah, and I think that is, once again, one of the things that Leica is able to do because of their independence, you know, because they are a smaller studio, because they work with other small distributors like Focus. And it doesn't pay off for them necessarily. This is a refrain that I've said once and I'll say it again, is thank God they've got that Nike money from Phil Knight's dad. So they can keep making this shit. But yeah, like that is something that they are able to consistently do, and I really respect them for it. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, now every time I see a pair of J's, I'm just going to thank them for continuing stop motion animation. Right?
Exactly. But yeah. This was a blast, man. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about Leica and Kubo with me. One more time, JPG, where can anybody find you? What do you got coming up that you want to let the people know about?
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on all social media at SpeakerJPG. I'm mostly on Instagram and Blue Sky. I don't know. Yeah, just come see my stuff there. And the Welcome Party gets released on YouTube. You can find that at Welcome Party Pod. Intermyth, my consultancy firm, that is at Intermyth_. And then my upcoming shows are going to be the Pokemon World Championships, which I think, oh, no, this episode comes out after that?
This will be out on August 25th.
Okay, so my next ones then will be Phil-Am CreatorCon in San Diego. We're going to be talking about content creation and podcasting from a Phil-Am perspective, which I'm very excited about. And then the week after that is going to be a LA Comic-Con. The Welcome Party is going to be doing a show at LA Comic-Con.
Nice. I am not sure if I will be there yet, but if I'm there, I will be definitely check that out. And yeah, always check out any panels that Jason does, JPG does, because they're always spectacular. He has helped me out with a number of panels in the past. He's helped out a number of my friends, like creative people. They're always killer. So like if you are just looking to watch panels, check it out. If you're looking to do some creative stuff, definitely hit him up on Intermyth because he's great to work with.
Thank you.
Of course. But yeah, it's, from my end, everybody, check out all the other stuff that I'm doing. I've got a whole Patreon where I do a bonus podcast. It's called Across the Second Dimension. That's where this Leica retrospective started. Off on that series, talking about Coraline, but I have a whole backlog of other episodes where I talk about 3D films and see how they hold up in 2D. I also do another podcast that comes out on every other Friday called Midnight Film Society. It's just kind of more a general talking about movies thing. You can also find my writing on places like Watch Mojo, do all kinds of stuff. Just go to underratedmoviepodcast.com, follow Underrated Movie Podcast and all those socials for all that good stuff. But yeah, one more time, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you for being here with me, JPG.
Thank you so much for having me. And let's join Underrated's Patreon. Let's bring me back.
Yeah.
Because listeners can bribe you with money, right?
Exactly. There you go. There's some subscribe to Patreon, and I'm sure JPG will be on there again soon.
Just like ask for me or whatever. That's fine.
All right, everybody. I'll see you all next time.